Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're on episode 10 of Skate the Infinity. I'm really excited. I haven't watched the dub episode yet of the Crazy Rock Jam, mainly because it's a recap episode. And although I do want to hear Shadow and Mia's English voice actors, there's not too much that I'm like, oh, it'll be translated, because most of it's just going to be a recap. But I'm really excited for this episode. How you all had to wait a whole extra week before getting between 9 and 10. Because 9 cuts off at the craziest point. Adam's just smacked, concussed Cherry with a skateboard in the face. We flash forward to Cherry clearly out of the hospital, but I'm assuming we're going to go back to that moment. Because how could we not? And we still have the rest of the tournament to go through. So I'm really curious to see, as I said in episode 9.5, I think that it's going to be Tadashi versus Mia. That makes the most logical sense. But the whole thing of Shadow being like, I'm going to face Adam, I guess Shadow is going to face Adam, and that will leave Langa and Tadashi. So I'm really, really curious how that's going to go down. I'm like, fingers crossed that Shadow's okay because as we saw last episode, Adam's not in a good place mentally and he's not afraid to hit somebody. So that does not bode well for Shadow or Hiromi at all. But I'm glad it's at least Hiromi, as much as I love Shadow, other than Mia. If it had been little Mia, I've been like, no, leave the child alone. So the Crazy Rock Jam episode, it gave us so much Ranga moments between Reki and Langa. I'm like, okay, guys, look, I know we have 3 episodes left. We've got to do something this episode. Last episode, Joe talked with Langa. Cherry was mentioning things about reconciliation. Joe's talked with Reki. Like, Joe's basically been the middle person to get them back together, which fits Joe's character very well. So they at least need to talk this episode, especially after Langa spent most of episode 9 looking for Reki. Just saying. So, oh guys, I'm so excited. I'm really, really excited. I've had to, much like with some of the other reactions, this last week was finals week. It was crazy with work. I've had to wait and do reactions kind of at the last minute. So I've had a good week and a half where I haven't been able to watch these shows. And so it's all fresh. So I'm ready. My withdrawals I've been wanting to watch Skate so much. I haven't even got to the English dub of 9.5, but I figure after I watch episode 10, I'll just watch the English dub of 9.5 and 10 together, and that will be fine. So I hope y'all enjoy this reaction. Thank you all so much for watching. And yes, finally, we're starting Act 3. We're starting the final act of this episode. I have no clue what to expect, but I'm really, really excited. So we're going to start this episode, DAP not needing words, and in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh my gosh, yes, okay, all right, we're gonna stop the sound on this. Oh my gosh, you guys. I feel like this episode, usually with Skate the Infinity, this whole season, it has been like plot, 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 plot. It has just been like a non-stop chugging train of things happening. And for once, in this, very similar to episode 2, not since episode 2 has this show kind of slowed down and let the moments with the characters really linger. Like, we've had little moments with characters, absolutely, but it's always been like a plot point, and just chugged on through. But this episode, it actually like took its time and let certain moments sink in for us, especially, which is important because this is Langa and Reki making up. And if you're building to the climax of the show and the resolution, then it's Act 3. Absolutely, these characters need to make up. They need to make up, talk to each other, communicate. I'm fangirling so hard right now for Ranga. Oh my god. And Tadai. The Tadashi Adam ship needs a better name. I'm just saying, maybe, I don't know what we can call it, like Lilith or something. I don't know. But, oh my god. So I'm going back to this episode because, oh my god, like, so Mia, let me say before we really get into this, I feel bad for Mia's character. and we're going to talk about that. I feel bad for Mia's character. I feel bad for Shadow. Um, and then Reki and Langa, we have them. So starting out this episode, I'm glad we flashed back, and Joe just running up to Cherry's side was like, "Get out of my way!" Like Kaoru. Like Joe being like, "Oh my god." And then Adam having the audacity to be like, "Oh, I thought I could have some fun, but he was really boring." And Joe's like, "You son of a bitch, I'm gonna beat the snot out of you." And luckily Shadow popped in and was like, "Hey, beat the tar out of him later. Hospital now." And so, also, can I say the idea of Joe bridal style carrying Cherry out of there? What a hero. What an absolute hero. I mean, so that led us to the hospital, and that led us to Crazy Rock Jam, where Mia and Shadow are checking up on Cherry. That all makes sense. We all gotten that. I feel bad for Mia this episode. I really do. Because Mia's kind of by himself this episode a lot. Usually Mia and Shadow are side by side, but Shadow had to be the adult and drive Cherry to the hospital, and then later Shadow's injured. So Mia's kind of by himself this episode, and Mia's rightfully really sad because at the end of the day, we've really focused on Langa and Reki's whole issue. And yes, Langa did not keep his promise to Reki, but Mia brings up a good point. He's like, "Reki, you're not keeping your promise to me. Like, it's not just Langa that you are affecting. You're affecting other people too, including myself." Like, Reki made that promise to Mia that he'd be there to support him, and then he wasn't. And I completely forgot about that. Like, I was so focused on Reki and Langa's deal that I was like, "Oh yeah, Mia's this little kid. Like, he's so impressionable." And Reki said he'd be there for him, and then he wasn't. So that adds a whole nother layer to it of Reki being important, not just... It's kind of like that if you've ever seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life. It's like an old 1940s film. It's wonderful. I love that movie. But the whole point is, like, it's kind of like a Christmas Carol in its message, in that you matter. Like, your life is important, and you impact so many people, and you don't even realize it. And Reki's so hyper-focused on Langa and Adam and all of this other stuff, he's not seeing that Reki's really important to Mia. Like, Mia really looks up to him, and him not being there for him has really hurt him. And so I like that Mia says, "I'll forgive you," but I really hope in either episode or 12, I really hope that Reki and Mia at least have a moment together for Reki to be like, "Hey, I'm here for you." Like, something like that, because Mia deserves it. Bless our little cat boy's heart. Like, him having to face Tadashi and just showing up there in a school uniform and trying to confront Reki, and Reki just runs off. I'm like, Mia deserves to get a hug or something by the end of this series, because bless his heart, this episode was hard in terms of him having to deal with all this. And just, he just looks so sad. And then he gets mad kind of at Langa because he's like, he ran off and he's a slime, and Langa's like, eh. And then Tadashi, like, watching Tadashi, this episode was so snake-like. Like this whole series, he's been like the butler and the behind-the-scenes secretary and all this. But this episode, Tadashi was a snake, a slippery snake. And I was like, ooh, okay, interesting, I see. I like that Mia's like, "Drag him here if you have to, but he better be here at the next beef, that slime." And Longa's like, "Okay, sure thing." Tadashi, we'll talk about him. So I didn't even put two and two together when he said that he taught Adam how to skate, that Tadashi being the one with the dance moves that taught, because all of his moves are similar to Adam's, but Adam's put more flamboyance and flourish to them. Tadashi is a weird character, guys. A weird character, because he reminds me a little bit of Ushijima from Haikyuu, where he's very emotionless. Like, he's very just stoic, and he doesn't show his emotion on the surface at all. Very opposite of Adam. Adam shows emotions constantly, and he's constantly projecting. And Tadashi does not show his emotions. His eyes are very much his windows to the soul. His eyes are his emotional thing, where he, like, you can tell kind of how he's feeling based on what his eyes are doing. But for someone that is as cold and emotionless seeming as Tadashi, man's got some hips, got some moves. Which I've heard a lot of people on Twitter say that the relationship of Adam and Tadashi is kind of like a dominating, submissive relationship. I see it. Tadashi, I'm just saying, he would let Adam step on him and would enjoy it. I'm pretty sure, especially based on later on when we get the whole love hotel, which, what the heck? We're going to talk about that for sure. For sure, indeed. We're going to talk about that because that's a thing. But, yeah. So I'm not surprised that Tadashi beat Mia. I am not surprised at all. That part, I was like, okay, cool, makes sense, especially after seeing like the moves that he puts on. That totally made sense. But you know what did surprise me? Shadow getting hit in the face with a baseball bat. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that in a second. But, okay, so we got this flashback of Tadashi and Adam. The flashback while he's skating with Mia. And, oh my god, okay, let me just say that I'm an English major. Victorian literature is not my favorite genre of literature. A lot of Victorian lit, I feel, is just rich people problems. And woe is me and my first world problems. But I do have a soft spot for a little bit of Victorian lit romance. I do have a soft spot for that. And Tadashi and Adam's story is a straight up Victorian novel. It is. It's Wuthering Heights. It's Jane Eyre. It's just a straight up Victorian love story of the forbidden love of the lowly servant, the gardener's son, who introduces. I love that it's the gardener's son. Of course, we have the symbolism of the gardener, the Garden of Eden. We have the gardener's son, and he's been forbidden to, interact with the master's son, Inosuke. But he sees Inosuke crying and suffering and being alone, probably after his aunts abused him, or his father abused him. And he's like, hey, you know what would be fun? Skateboarding. And that ties back to the whole notion this episode of skateboarding being fun. Of it's not just the fact that you're skating with someone, but it's you're having fun doing it. And doing it with someone helps to make that fun even more pronounced. But I love the little soft expression of Tadashi where he's like, come on, we can play, we can have skateboard and it'll be fun. And I like the idea that Tadashi was taller than Inosuke when they were kids, and now you see him as adults and Inosuke's taller than Tadashi. But that symbolism of him handing the board to him and the shadows are on Adam and the light is coming from Tadashi is so symbolic of that gesture of this is what's going to corrupt the garden. And I love that in the flashback we see Adam like carrying bags of mulch around and they're playing in the pool, and clearly they don't use the pool very much because it's always empty. But I guess they don't have time because they have other things to do. And it seems like Adam and Tadashi had such a great thing as children. And then the line he says, because at first I was like, Tadashi, you love this man, clearly. You like him a lot. Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you speak up to him? And we'll talk about this in the live stream, but I have been spoiled. Some people were saying it in the comments section. I guess it's not really a spoiler, but that since I've seen this flashback, but the idea, they said in an interview, and when we do the live stream, I want to go through that interview, but they said that Tadashi was the secretary to Adam's dad, which adds another creepy layer to this whole thing. But so clearly, one, Tadashi didn't speak up because he was working for Adam's father and didn't want to get fired, because then he couldn't see Adam at all. But also when he says, if it were any other hobby, he could have befriended a child of proper social standing instead of me, and the master wouldn't have made him quit. Because they establish, and he says that to Reki, he's like, oh, well, skateboarding's looked down upon, and people think that's just delinquents. Like, he's projecting all these things that have been told to him about skateboarding and the reasons why him and Adam can't do it together. And Reki's just like, screw that. But the idea that he could have befriended somebody other than me, like Tadashi almost feels guilty that Adam was his friend. And he's kind of like doubling down on that guilt by being his second. It's like he is so, it's like glutton for punishment, like he's masochistic, like making himself suffer. Which if it is a dom sub relationship, maybe that is it. I don't know. I led Mr. Inosuke down the wrong path. And so he's trying to correct it by, if I beat you, I can take away that thing I can take away the apple from the garden and we can go back to you being able to not be corrupted. But it's a little too late for that. I think it's a little too late for that. I don't think, Tadashi, that's going to work. But you can try. So it's clearly going to be Tadashi versus Langa, which is going to be interesting. Very interesting. I don't know how that's going to work. and Adam versus Reki, how's that going to work? Because clearly I feel like Adam's going to win, because otherwise it's going to be anticlimactic if it's Reki versus Langa. It's going to be anticlimactic because it'll be like, oh, cool, these guys like each other. It'll be a fun little skate. Isn't that fun? I feel like this show is not going to do that. And if it was Reki versus Tadashi, that'll be weird. It'd be like, hey, remember when you took me to a love hotel? You weirdo. So, I feel like Adam's going to win, but the question is, like, I don't want Reki to get hurt after we just had this. So that makes me nervous for Reki, because I'm like, dude, are we going to have, like, Adam, especially now that he knows that Langa and Reki like each other, because before, he didn't really even know Reki and Langa liked each other. He just knew they knew each other. And so he was just using Reki as an example to be like, look how tough I am. And look how good of a skater I am. But now that he knows that Reki likes Langa and that they're very close, that's going to add a whole nother dynamic to it. But there was actually a lot happening in this episode now that I think about it. I was like, man, not a lot happened in this episode. No, a lot happened. as usual. Why am I not surprised? So, I like that Reki's family and Langa's mom clue into the fact that both of them are out of it. I love that Reki's family all look so similar, but so different at the same time. Like, you can all tell they're related, but they all have distinct looks, and they're all like, Reki, you're so out of it. Why? I hate that those guys beat him up. Like, that was so... What a bunch of jerks, because they're like, oh, you used to be in our group, and then Reki's like, well, yeah, you guys don't skate for fun, you just skate for fashion. Like, you're not passionate about it, so of course I don't want to hang out with you. And then they just beat him up. Like, that's just awful. And we'll talk about Oka here, too, because Oka, I feel like the manager of Dope Sketch was trying to do good. He was trying to be nice and say, hey, look, because it sounds like Oka, maybe, we talked about this in the last episode, in episode 8, the idea of being a support character instead of being like a skater. And it sounds like Oka went down the path that Reki could go down. It sounds like Joe and Oka are the spectrum of where Reki could go in terms of his future. He could either go the Joe path or he could go the Oka path. The Oka path is that he becomes a support character and he builds skateboards and he works in the skate shop alone. He doesn't really skateboard anymore. He just he doesn't skateboard anymore. He just kind of helps out and stands on the sidelines. But we established in the last episode that Reki doesn't like that. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be on the sidelines. He wants to be skating with them. So I feel like Joe is the other end of the spectrum, where we've learned that Cherry had this unrequited crush on Adam, and Joe probably knows about that and has learned about that over the years. Even though in the flashback we didn't quite see it, I'm sure that he figured it out over time that, oh yeah, Cherry has a crush on Adam. So Joe's path wasn't to abandon skateboarding just because Cherry wanted to skate Adam. Like, that wasn't his path. Instead, he kept skating for fun and just happened to be with Cherry and still be his friend and still be by his side. So I feel like Reki's at this point in this episode where he can either go one of two ways. He can either go the Oka route, which he doesn't want to do, or he can go the Joe route. And that seems like that's kind of where he ends up going, because he decides that, no, skateboarding is fun and I want to do this. Adam's quite delusional. I know a lot of people hate Adam. I find him fascinating. I find Adam fascinating, and his whole thing with Tadashi is its own thing. And maybe it's because I'm older, and I don't know, maybe it's my perspective on their situation is different. I don't know. Age doesn't matter. I still don't like that Adam needs to leave Langa alone. Like, dude, Langa's 17, you're in your mid-20s, leave the kid alone. Like, nope, no wedding blues. You just need to quit being creepy. Tadashi is clearly into whatever you're into as well, so you guys just need to do your own thing together. You guys can be in love. Like, even antagonists deserve love, as long as it's appropriate. And with Tadashi, I believe it is. Sure, go for it. But, the thing with Shadow, man, I did not see that coming. I was worried for Shadow this episode, because I thought, okay, he is going to skate Adam, Adam's going to hurt him, and that's going to lead us into the finale. But here's the thing, that didn't even end up happening. So I feel so bad for Shadow because he was just helping the manager, helping her out, and doing his thing. And she's like, "Oh, you're such a big help. Thank you so much." And then this guy comes out of nowhere, and Hiromi, freaking Hiromi, my hero, taking one for the manager and like getting smacked upside the head with a baseball bat. And this guy, this blonde haired guy, like I'm going through the episode right now, and we saw him back in the last episode being all freaked out. And we are like, what the heck is going on with this guy? But it's because his girlfriend dumped him and he blamed Shadow for it and was taking his anger out on Shadow. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that was a good setup by the series that it was there and we got to see it. But, oh my gosh. I felt so bad for Shadow because I'm like, he was just being with the woman he loves and helping her out. And then he saved her. He, like, stepped in to take the hit. I hate that he got injured. I really do. I mean, it's in hindsight, it's probably good because him against Adam would have not ended well. But still, getting hit in the head with a baseball bat to the point where you're bleeding, that's not fun either. Not at all. Concussions all around this series, right? So, we go to this celebratory, the Chamber of Commerce 50th anniversary, where there's a whole bunch of them sitting there. And I've noticed that in this series, Adam is always like in the colorful suits and no one else is. Like everybody's in muted grays and blacks and Adam's always in that blue suit that matches his hair with the red tie. And the idea of of Tadashi in the shadows, like by his side, like Tadashi's always been with him, just lurking in the shadows like a freaking snake in the grass. And he's like, talking about Shadow being his opponent, being injured, and Adam like keeping the straight face and being like, oh, so I went by this default? That's not good enough. He's like, oh, I'll just have to do something, and smiling for his aunts. Oh my gosh, like just. So yeah, so we had Oka meeting with Reki and had that whole conversation, and then Reki going back home after he got beat up by those guys. Like, going back home, like, he found out Shadow... Well, first of all, he found out that Shadow was injured. He found out Shadow was injured, and that's when he ran over to the hospital. And, of course, he can't... He's like, this is the worst place to see Langa. Nope, piecing out. And that's when Mia stops him. And like I said, I feel so bad for Mia this episode, because he didn't deserve that. Like, all that stuff going on with Langa and Reki, like, Mia did not deserve to be in the middle of that. So I hope that... And Reki shoving him, like, I hope that he makes up with Mia, because that's just hard. But then, yeah, so Reki not watching where he's going, he's not on a skateboard, and he just, because he can't go fast enough, he just gets yeeted by this car. Thank God Tadashi was going 13 miles an hour. Not fast enough to kill someone. But, okay. And then Langa shows up at the parents' house and sees the diary, sees the journal, and is reminded why he likes skateboarding with Reki. We get further confirmation of that. That's all wonderful. I love it. But, okay, this love hotel. If you had told me going into this show that Tadashi was going to hit Reki with a car and take him to a love hotel instead of a hospital, I would have thought you were smoking something. But here we are. So there's a lot of implications with this scene. A lot. Again, Tadashi, whatever weird shit him and Adam have going on, okay. There's a lot of implications with this. Reki obviously is like, oh my god, I'm in a love hotel. I've never been in one of these. What the heck? Blushes all around. Tadashi is acting like this is not a big thing. Like, one, he's been to a love hotel himself, so, and he's in his mid-20s to late 20s, so probably has been. Two, that this is a frequent occasion. The whole hush money thing. Like, this is a frequent occasion. So I'm like, Tadashi, you've brought people to these love hotels. Were you expecting something to happen? I mean, obviously I don't think he was expecting anything to happen with Reki. I don't think that at all. No, not at all. However, and Reki's like, who the hell are you? I don't know you. And he realizes who it is. So he agrees to agree to a private settlement. I don't want this to cause trouble for the man I serve, which is Adam, and Reki doesn't know that. And that's like, several thousand yen that he's tossing his way. Like, it looked like 10,000 yen. And Reki's like, I'm not that hurt. Don't mock me. But is the implication that Tadashi, whenever someone has wronged Adam or has dirt on Adam, does Tadashi just take him to a love hotel? Is that what we're implying? Are we also implying that obviously he didn't do anything with Reki, but are we implying that maybe Tadashi has done things with other people to hush them up? I'm just saying. I wouldn't be surprised. I was just floored that that's why you didn't take him to a hospital to hush him. You took him to a love hotel. Okay. I mean, I guess in true Adam and Tadashi fashion, it checks out. That seems legit. And then he recognizes Reki, and I love his look of recognition. Like baby Tadashi has like the bright eyes and thing, but adult Tadashi is so like he looks like he's taken 5 Xanax before he did anything. He's just like, oh, you're Reki. Like there's no hardly any change in his face. He's just like, oh yeah, you're him. It's just like, oh god. And then he's like, how do I get out of here? And then Tadashi's like, you've never been in a place like this, have you? Because clearly Tadashi has. Oh my god. Like, I can only imagine the fanfics that have come out of this episode based on this scene alone. I'm a little bit scared to even question it, to be honest. But then the thing that Tadashi does for him, it's kind of like reverse psychology in a way. And I'm sure Tadashi didn't mean for it to be like this, but that's what happens, is that he tries to convince Reki to stop skateboarding. And I'm sure that the reason why is multi-layered, and maybe one, because he doesn't want Reki to be around Langa anymore, because that's who Adam likes, and Tadashi is trying to serve his master. 2, because he doesn't want Reki to get hurt by Adam, which could happen. But also, as I'm watching this and talking to you all, Reki headbutting Tadashi was so satisfying. I didn't know I needed that, and Tadashi's just like, oh, God, kid, what are you doing? But yeah, so telling him that to kind of spare Reki from getting hurt by Adam, which by the end of this episode could happen. But also almost as a way to kind of tell himself. Tadashi's kind of like telling himself, like, skateboarding it's wasteful. It's time consuming. You don't get anything out of it. You can't make a career out of it. There's few instructors for it. The companies that make the products aren't good. He's like, you can't make a living off of it. It still has a bad image. Like, there's no reason why anybody should skateboard. Almost like he's telling himself this and justifying why he wants Adam to stop skateboarding because he doesn't see any future in it, right? But then Reki turns around and he's like, no, there is something to it. It's that it's fun and it makes life meaningful, and that's why I want to do it. And it's almost like Reki crying in that moment was so, like, just my heart felt that, because it was like this character is finally realizing and being able to vocalize what they've been feeling this entire time. And he's like, skateboarding's fun and awesome and I want to keep doing it. And Langa, meanwhile, you get the montage, and then Reki says, it doesn't matter whether I'm good or talented. It's still fun. From the first time I got on a skateboard, it's still fun. It doesn't matter like how talented he is. It's about learning and getting better slowly over time. Oh, you guys. And then he just boots Tadashi out, and and it's just like, and then Tadashi's just like, skateboarders are stupid. Like, he's trying to convince himself, but I'm like, dude, are you at this point, or is Reki getting through to you? Because then we cut to the flashback of him with Adam, and it's almost like Tadashi's like, yeah, I know skateboarding's fun because it was really fun when I did it with Adam, and I want that to happen again. That's why I'm doing all of this. So, but yeah, I like that Reki's immediately like, as soon as that conversation Tadashi's over, he's like, crap, there's money on the bed, a skateboard, keys, how do I get out of here? And then Adam sees Langa and Reki meet back from episode 8. And then Adam's like, who's this redheaded kid? So I'm curious if Adam will find out that Tadashi has talked to Reki. I'm really curious. I'm really curious if he'll talk to Tadashi about it. Because at the moment he was like, oh, I'll bring Mia or Joe in as a consolation to race against me. Which I kind of almost wish we'd seen Joe versus Adam, but then not. Because I don't want to see any more people get injured. Even though Reki, like, what are we even doing? Next episode, I don't know. But guys, the whole reunion between Reki and Langa, it's everything I wanted. It's everything I wanted. I'm glad that Reki was on a skateboard this time and didn't get hit by a semi. That's always fun. But them getting together, it was so perfect. It was so perfect. They both were like, and the words, the not needing words isn't just the, which we'll talk about that, but it's them being like, look, let's just skate. Let's just skate together and we'll figure it out. And we can just let our emotions out. And they do. And they do. And then, oh my gosh. And then just the idea that Langa's like, let's skateboard together. And then Langa's like, no, I hear it. I hear the heart beating. And he's like, it's just like when I snowboarded with my dad, I was in love with snowboarding because it was with my dad. And he's like, and I love skateboarding because it's with Reki. And it's like, I'm sorry, but anybody that's like, oh, Reki and Langa are just friends, I don't agree. Not after this. Not after this. You don't tell your friends I want to skate infinitely with you. You don't tell a friend that. You tell someone that you tell a soulmate that. Oh. And then that laugh that Langa gives is the most pure thing I've heard all week. That pure laugh. And he just like lets all of his emotion out. Like he's smiling and he's just complimenting Reki. And he's being like, and that's all Reki has needed is just confirmation that he's wanted. And confirmation that he's valuable as a friend. And Langa gives all that to the point where Reki's like, stop, you're embarrassing me. Stop. It's like, what a confession. I'm just saying. It's just like such a confession. It's like he finally spoke from his heart. Langa did. He's like, you're my teacher. And Reki's like, that recognition. And he's like, you go beyond my imagination. And he's like, the idea of spinning the tracks and your beef with Adam. And then Reki's like, let's just not go back to Adam. Like, just, and his blush. And then, infinity. If you wanted to know why this is called Skate the Infinity, I want to skate infinitely with you. What a confession. That's it. It's canon. I'm all aboard the Ranga train. Next stop, nowhere, because we're going to stay on it forever. God, it's everything I wanted. I wanted them to make up, and this is exactly how I wanted it. Like, it's perfect. Them just acknowledging each other and being like, we're not going to let anything get between us. We're going to be friends. We're going to skate forever. That's just... And then Reki's like, infinitely? Isn't that a bit much? And he's like, no, you said it first. You said skating was infinite. And it's like... Also, okay, Adam, one last thing. Adam, your use of drone technology. If Tadashi can't cut it, I'll use my drones. I want to root for Adam, for Tadashi to get through to him, but at the same time, like, Adam, your creepy factor just knows no ends, does it? Antagonistic indeed. And I don't appreciate you looking elsewhere a little longer. Well, tough luck, because that's too bad. Also, Tadashi's back, seeing it, and what a blow to Tadashi, because he's like, oh, you're being a stupid skateboarder, but then Tadashi has to see too, Reki and Langa basically communicating and getting back together and doing what Tadashi wants to do with Adam. Like, it's kind of a gut punch. A little bit, but I'm all here for it. Tadashi's kind of masochistic. It's fine. He kind of feeds off of that, I feel. And yeah. And I didn't notice this in the episode where I've decided on who will take Shadow's place. When Adam says that, Tadashi like has this look of, oh no, like he immediately realizes what he's gonna say. Like they hadn't talked about this before. Love always comes with obstacles. Besides, don't you get more fired up when there are obstacles? So it's going to be Reki versus... I'm curious how in the hell Adam's going to get Reki to skateboard against him. Like, how are you going to do that, Adam? Reki hates you. Like, how is that going to... I'm very curious how that's going to happen, because I don't see Adam showing up at the Dope Sketch shop, and I don't see Adam showing up at Reki's home. So how is that going to work? But and then the preview, what did we get? I want to go back to that preview and see if we got anything. I was like so floored in the moment. I was like, what are we even doing? So the next episode, it looks like Cherry's back, but maybe he's in the wheelchair because he's so much lower than Joe. And we cut back. Adam's in his car. We got Langa skateboarding. Adam looking fine and Tadashi looking not fine. And then Langa. Oh my gosh, you guys. Yeah. So I like that we started our Act 3 with Langa and Reki making up. Finally, God, I'm sure you all were ecstatic when this happened. But we still have 2 episodes. Lots can happen. We're going to have Adam versus Reki and Tadashi versus Langa. Like I said, I almost feel like Adam has to win against Reki. But I also am like, Tadashi... Here's the thing. The Tadashi versus Langa is such a dual-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, I feel like Adam's going to beat Reki. I just don't know how, and I'm really nervous because I don't want Reki to get injured. So I don't know how that's going to play out. But for the sake of the plot, we've built Adam up to be the final boss, to be the main event. We've built Adam up to be the final boss. So, of course, that makes sense that Adam's going to win against Reki. I don't know how, and I don't know the circumstance, and I'm concerned for Reki because Reki just got his confidence and his happiness back, and I'm like, are we going to strip him all away of that again? Or is Langa going to comfort him after he loses and is like, hey, man, I still like you even though you lost to Adam? Maybe something like that. I could see that. Like, I could see Reki maybe getting hurt and Langa coming to him and being like, oh, hey, no, I like you. And maybe Langa being like, back off, Adam, I don't like you. That would be great. But as far as Langa versus Tadashi, it could go 2 ways. I want to say that Tadashi's going to win because it needs to be Adam versus Tadashi at the end, right? But then because Tadashi wants to stop him from skateboarding. But at the same time, Langa has been our main prodigy protagonist this whole time, so it would make sense for Langa to win too. That one's interesting. I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm not sure how that's going to end. But I'm really curious how it's going to go down. I feel like whoever wins the next 2 matches, they're going to save that for the finale. So we might get 2 skate matches this episode, maybe. I don't know. But, oh guys, this episode was so good. This was a lot of fun. Things happened I didn't expect, and we got things that made my heart sore, and I'm just feeling kind of euphoric right now, even though I'm scared for Reki. Good episode, as per the Skate the Infinity usual. So I am so curious to know your thoughts down below. Oh my gosh, I'm so curious to know. Please don't spoil me on episodes 11 and 12. I am so hyped for them. I want to savor them because they're the last 2. Speaking of which, there is a poll down below. This week and next week, we are going to vote for sadly, the show that is going to replace Skate the Infinity. I can't believe we're already here, but we're going to vote for the show that's going to replace it. As far as how it was narrowed down, on my Patreon, what I'm going to start doing now is that on Patreon, I've got this handy dandy notebook. This handy notebook that has manga that you all have recommended listed in it. And I've sorted it out through genres. And so with each show that I watch, the replacement show is going to be a certain genre. And what I do is that on Patreon, I have fellow patrons narrow it down to the top 5. And then from those top 5, we do a public poll and everybody votes on those. So if you're a patron, you guys kind of get to help narrow everything down. And then you get another vote when we do the public poll. So that's kind of like a perk of that. So, my fellow patrons, this theme for this Skate the Infinity replacement is a sports anime. Skate the Infinity hasn't exactly been a sports anime per se, so these choices that are on the poll are a bit more traditional in terms of sports anime. So these 6 choices, there was a tie for 5th. These 6 choices were the top 6 that patrons picked to replace this show. So that's what your options are for voting. The link is down below. You have this week and next week to vote. And I'm really excited because all the shows on there I have not seen. I've heard they're all good. I'm excited either way. But please go vote. You get that option. You get 1 vote, or you get to vote for any and all that you want to pick. So you can pick all 6 choices. You can pick 1 choice out of the 6, whatever you feel you would be interested in watching me react to. So that poll is down below in the link under the description. But guys, next week, episode 11. I'm so hyped. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again real soon. Bye.